Okay, I wanted to do a video. This video is going to be about something I came across actually just recently, just a second ago. I came across this YouTuber who I don't know really his politics or anything, but I found two videos that I really liked of his, and the second one had to do with fat phobia, being supposedly racist. And so I came across this other lady video, and basically, I don't know if she is associating that phobia with racism, but I'm gonna watch her video and kind of like respond to it as we go. So I've only watched maybe like a minute or two of it. So here we go. Oh, this is just a commercial. Yeah, I don't have commercial lists.
Of course, fatphobia is rooted in racism. Of course, fatphobia is rooted. What is it rooted in racism?
So that part right there, like I said, I heard that already. I feel like, first off, thinking about, if racism is fat phobia, personally, I feel that that statement and assumption implies something about black women. And then it devalidates or invalidates. That's more of what I'm looking for, sorry. Invalidates black women who don't fit the stereotype, implying that fat phobia and being overweight is associated with black women, which is honestly a racist assumption. If a white woman assumed that black women were overweight and fat, we would consider that woman racist. But when it comes out of her mouth, it's not. And I wonder why that is. But let's continue.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline, but you can call me Jay. By the way I stutter, you'll see it throughout this entire series. And welcome to episode 2 of Is Losing Weight Fatphobic, as I explore my issues with weight, the history of fatphobia, and I actively work to lose weight in a healthy and sustainable way. So if you haven't seen episode 1, check it out right here. But first, I have to tell you that this video is sponsored by my patrons. Thank you to my new Patreon supporter. We appreciate you. I do have a Patreon where I give tips and tricks for caring for my mother and for really anyone who has Alzheimer's. It is literally a love fest over there, so please come join us for $3 a month. You can also check out our TikTok, which has now over 130,000 loved ones, which is what we call our followers. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Today I wanted to talk about the origins of fatphobia. I have a few books, podcasts, and articles that I will be referencing. I'll post the links to them in the description box below. But first, let's check out my measurements for this week. This way.
Yeah, her measurements are 12 inches, 12.5 inches on her arms, chest 35 inches. They were 13 and 36 inches before, 48 inches on her hips, and 27 on her thighs, and 29 on her waist. And, I kind of feel like, when people struggle with weight, they assume, everybody, especially with black women, especially with this type of body type, they love to assume everybody has the same body type as them, which is really frustrating because I don't notice white women doing that to each other. I really don't. It's like white women are allowed to just be individuals. Like we're not allowed to be, thin or rectangle shaped or top heavy. We're not allowed to be fat or skinny. We're allowed only to fit one type of body type. I feel like, you don't see that much with white people. They're more allowed to be individuals. And this is a thing that happens with black women often, where they get pigeonholed into anything that's the stereotype for black women in general. And then we can't really be individuals. So, yeah, going ahead, watch the rest of the video.
Here they are. So we chat about fatphobia and how pretty much all of Europe are haters. I'll let you know how I ate this week and how I'm staying on track for my own sustainable weight loss. My dog. Stop it. So, of course, fatphobia began with racism and stems all the way back to the transatlantic slave trade. Of course, fatphobia, the thing that we all experience, white, black, Asian, whatever, started with the transatlantic slave trade. Of course, of course, of course. So, essentially, racism and fatphobia are interwoven into the fabric of not only this country, but really our entire world, because it started in Europe and colonization happened worldwide. So, gonna happen our time.
I never understand. Okay, why would you make the assumption that fat phobia would apply more to European standards when in reality, a lot of, like, if you look at the weight of people in Africa, a lot of people in Africa, African women, are much smaller than Western women who are white. So I don't understand how are you saying that fat phobia is associated more with the European standard? Yes, I mean, you could say that that's seen as more ideal, but the association of black women not fitting that standard is more so what confuses me, because it's like if you look at most African women, they wouldn't have many issues fitting that standard because many of the time, most of the time, they're not very overweight. They're usually of much thinner weight than, say, a white American woman. Or many Western European countries, the women there would still be bigger. That's just how it's been. So, and I could also put links in because we could kind of use, the rate of obesity for each country. But I've looked it up. So, yeah, I just don't understand why someone would make that assumption. Going further.
Machine, and we're going to go all the way back to 15th century Europe when the slave trade started. The influx of Africans was something new to European people. So the depictions of black people began popping up in art. Journalists began writing about the black people that they began seeing on the streets and so on. However, during this time, plump women were preferred. Literally, art
Yes, they
from
were.
the time depicts ladies with like thighs and like guts and stomach fat. And this is how women were desired to be during that time. Black people were depicted in artwork as well, but always in a subservient role, like handmaids to white women. By the way, did you guys know that walking around with your black handmaid was the cool thing to do for wealthy white women back then? It was like walking around with a new expensive purse, except they're humans. Which honestly, it's where the dehumanization part starts for me. Like, it's the dehumanization for me. Like, oh my God, I don't know if these people knew that they were awful back then, but it just makes my skin crawl. But during this time, weight wasn't really focused on that much yet. Until sugar became less of a delicacy because of the slave trade and its mass production due to free labor of enslaved people. So the European wealthy began getting more fat. Credit has been an exceptionally
I'm sorry, it's just a commercial. In another video. commercial.
This is really where it all sort of starts. So the rise of the slave trade changed the English ideals that they had about fat because it was accepted at once, and because women are evaluated mostly on the looks, these differences were pointed out and mostly applied to women. Fat men weren't nearly as targeted as women were. The French played a large role on focusing of black people when they went to the colonies and Africa. And they came to the conclusion that, okay, these black people are sensuous. They love sex. They love food. And for that reason, they tend to be a bit too fat. The thought was Europeans have rational self-control, and this is what makes them the premier race of the world. So in terms of body size, Europeans should be slender, and we should watch what we eat because we are the premier race. So literally.
So your issue is that you don't have self control or something? Because I mean, like, just because somebody wants to eat healthier because they think that they're the premier race doesn't mean that eating healthier is a bad thing. They just came to the conclusion to watch what they eat, and have a healthier lifestyle. It doesn't matter what the reason they came up with it was. It matters that it's a healthier lifestyle. So stop eating crap, basically. And stop trying to make excuses for why you can't control your weight and why you can't actually be of a healthy weight. Because this just seems like a long winded excuse for her to just not reach her goals, which is very obvious when you look at her measurements.
The idea of being slim, being seen as desirable in today's society, was never about health. It was always about class hierarchy and differentiating white people from Africans. Fatphobia wrapped up all in one is just about that. Differentiating Europeans from Africans. The slim ideal is rooted in that. In the 18th century is also where religion stepped in and created rules for those looking to be pure and without sin. Now, glutton became a point of focus in religion, of course, because black people were considered to be gluttonous and unchristian-like. So Protestants began teaching to shy away from lack of control around food. So basically, indulgence became a sin, and slim bodies were a sign that you were pure and upstanding. So now we're going to fast forward a little bit to the 19th century. Magazines.
So, the way I see it, almost from her perspective, well, I'll just let her continue.
Like Harper's Bazaar, which is still out today, would literally have articles warning American women, and let me be specific, middle class and upper class white women, that they needed to watch what they eat. And these articles were very unapologetic in stating that this was the proper form for Anglo-Saxon Protestant women. Calling me. And so it was important that women ate as little as necessary in order to show their Christian nature and their racial superiority. These are literally words that were pulled from Harper's Bazaar in the 18th century. Now, of course, this is a very condensed version of history, but less than 100 years ago, the leading magazines for women, white women, touted the ideal of being slim.
So basically, from my perspective, I don't get this. It almost seems like so far she's basically saying that since they thought that that was only for them, that she wants to make an excuse that it's not for her. Therefore, she doesn't have to eat healthily. She doesn't have to, watch her weight and actually live a healthy lifestyle, because some white people who are dead and weren't looking in her best interests thought that she was gluttonous and couldn't control herself in how she dieted. So she's going to prove them right and not control her weight, basically, and you know, basically be the gluttonous person who can't control themselves because she's black. Now, why are you self imposing some dead person's racist views of you? They're not even here anymore. Goodness, this is a long winded excuse just to be a lazy pig.
Equating to racial superiority, a whole ass word. Like, even the BMI, which is the body mass index, doesn't take into account bone density, the amount of muscle one has, and genetic differences in the body. The problem with this is, scientifically, it's been proven that black people, but specifically black women, are healthier at a higher weight than white women. So
That is so not true. That's a fucking lie. I know this isn't true because my mother's family are all about an 18 BMI, and that's as big as they're going to be. They're very thin and they're very small and they're very petite. You can't just say black women. One, for example, black people aren't even of the same ethnicity. So, what kind of ignorance are you talking about? Black Americans don't come from the same people. So, just because one study says that some black people are better at a certain weight and they're healthier at a certain weight that's higher than white people, that's a specific black people. Maybe those black people come from a certain part of Africa. Maybe these black people had a certain history in America, especially with, maybe the kinds of slaves they came from. Maybe they were bred a certain way, you know. So, I mean, you don't know the circumstances of these black people. You can't just say most of us are healthy at a heavier weight. Many of us are very unhealthy at normal weights that are higher. For example, my mother, if she is 110 pounds, she can't breathe anymore. It's too heavy for her. She can't be at 110 pounds even. And that's not an unhealthy weight. That's like a what, 20 BMI, 21 BMI, or something of that nature. It's very heavy for her, and yeah, she can't sustain that much weight. When she was pregnant with me, she had a hard time, a very complicated pregnancy, just by being pregnant with me, because she couldn't hold that much weight on her bones and on her body. So that's why, to me, it's like ignorant, because it's like most of the time with black Americans, we don't even know which black people we come from enough to know, are we even ethnically similar to the people in the study that you're conducting the study to. So that's what I mean, like, this is just ignorance.
So the BMI, honestly, is mostly only accurate for European white people, if that. Like, speaking of the BMI, and I promise y'all I'm not going to keep y'all forever. I'm almost finished. The creator of the BMI, his name is Ansel Keys. He determined the BMI through food research from the 1950s to the 1980s, which is so recent. And he did studies on men only, and these were men in mental institutions at that. So he compared the BMI of men from 7 countries. You guys want to know what those countries are? You guys want to know? You guys want to know what the countries are that he came up with the BMI for the entire globe? The 7 countries are Italy, Greece, former Yugoslavia, Netherlands, Finland, America, and Japan. So literally, white Japan. This study has been cited over 1,000,000 times and has become the basis for what.
And you didn't think when you just used those couple of countries that there is no country that is black country. Like there's no country where black people come from, just one country that's called black country. You thought that you were smart. You thought you were smart because you were like, oh, he's comparing people of European descent. Then I'm going to use a study of people that we don't even know what their heritage is and then extrapolate it to all black people when you don't even know where their heritage came from. You don't know how it compares to the black population as a whole and what most of our heritage comes from among black Americans. So your point that you were trying to make with black people being able to sustain at higher weights is completely zilch. It's completely nothing. And disproven by you because you weren't smart enough to check your own self. Because you pointed out it was only a couple countries with the BMI study, but you didn't figure out what were the countries, the country of origin, the black people in the study that were able to sustain a higher weight, healthier than white people were. You didn't think to actually question that because that's what you wanted to hear, because you want to be lazy, because you want to eat whatever you want to eat, because you don't have self control. This has nothing to do with racism. This has to do with what you want to feel and what you want to hear right now because you are, struggling with your weight loss. But don't blame it on racism. Just find a way to cope.
In our world today. And this is how it all started. I absolutely plan to explore much more of the history as it leads up to today. We have 6 more episodes for that, but as I'm concerned, I have to be honest and I'm not surprised that this is the foundation of fatphobia. I tend to think that race is a part of everything if we go far enough back in history. So now let's get back to my personal weight loss journey a bit and talking about how I'm trying to apply everything I learned into the choices that I'm making each week. I'm specifically choosing to do measurements for this journey and not use the scale to measure weight loss because of the history of the BMI, but also standing on a scale that just kind of drives me internally insane. I know that I've internalized a lot of racist ideals when it comes to weight, and I didn't want to focus on that.
Racist ideals when it comes to weight. So you mean to tell me that black people can't be thin naturally? No, sweetie, you are racist. You are self hating and stereotypical and generalizing black people by implying just because your body is having a hard time that the rest of us can't have a body type that naturally is able to maintain a low weight. This is where a lot of the assumption of black women who are thin who are accused day in and day out of being anorexic because of women like this who try to perpetuate the idea that we all are naturally fat. We all are naturally built the same way as her. When honestly, when I see her measurements, I'm so freaking confused. I don't even understand how someone could be shaped that way. So, I mean, like, obviously, just because we share the same race your weight and your measurements aren't going to be anything similar to mine because I come from a certain family and you come from a certain family, and it's got nothing to do with race. I'm pretty sure if she saw my measurements, she'd be very confused. She'd be like, how the heck can you have a chest that's so much bigger than your hips? And I would be of the same mentality. How can your waist be as big as it is and your hips and everything? Um, And that's just the way it is. Race isn't going to define body shape. Race isn't going to define weight. Genes, family lines, those things define, your weight and your body shape. not what race you are. If people assume black people are supposed to be fat or overweight or, built a certain way, what does that do for women who are naturally thin? What does that do for women who are built like rectangles or built like they're top heavy? A lot of the time, black women get body shamed day in and day out because of her, because of mentalities like her, because they can't accept that not everybody is like you. You're just one person. They're white women just like you, and you always accuse them of being fake because you are so confused that you think your body shape and your size has to do with your race when it just has to do with you. And you have to just accept that. You want to make it more acceptable that you're shaped that way. You want to make it more acceptable that you're heavier. You have to find another way to make that acceptable because all you're doing is putting shame on other people.
Around. Instead, I'm really working to learn my body's intuitive needs for working out and food intake also. So I am working out about 6 days a week. On average, I burn about 400 calories per workout. I am doing workouts that I like. I'm either working out with a friend or I'm actually like doing something that I just genuinely enjoy, like roller skating. Now, for food, I'm still making sure that 70% of my plate is veggies. Even when I ate some pizza last week, I ate a huge salad, which helped me not feel so bad about having pizza. But feeling bad about having food that I enjoy is rooted in racism and Protestant beliefs for upstanding Anglo-Saxon white women, which I am not. So fuck that. Uh, Eat your pizza, girl. So I'm refusing to feel shame when I eat certain foods anymore, especially knowing that, like, that's why you want me to feel bad? Have you seen my ass? All the way around that bouquet, and I want to get the hips. Anyway, no white Anglo-Saxon woman can have this ass unless they buy it. But now I can say that I totally understand when people say that loving yourself as you are.
See, that's what I mean. That type of mentality there is what is so racist and so stereotypical and so ignorant. Just because you have a certain body type, like I said, just because your weight is not healthy and you're probably taking years off your life because you want to make excuses for yourself does not change that everybody else has a different reality than yours. We're not all overweight. We're not all shaped like you. And when people assume that, what does that do for someone who is actually at a healthy weight, who's black? They get body shamed like no one else, really. I know this because my mother dealt with a lot of hate simply for being thin by everybody. Because then everybody kind of like, if a black person basically confirms or claims that, black women are supposed to be overweight or black women are supposed to have this kind of butt, then other races will have that mentality because they're like, it came out of the horse's mouth. So they think it's okay to think those things. And then when they see a woman, a black woman, who doesn't fit those standards, then they think something's wrong with her. So it creates body shame, it creates racism, this ideology, which she claimed was racism to not acknowledge, when in reality, all she's spewing is racism. And I just feel like people need to be accepting of everybody's body shape. And if you cannot make it to a thinner standard, that's you. But don't say that black women can't make that standard. Don't say that we're shaped a certain way because you don't know the rest. That's just your life. And I just get tired of black people just saying, just because the situation was this way for you, it must be because you're black. Not everything is because you're black. It isn't. So that's all I have to say. I guess I'll watch. Does she have anything else to say? Oh, she has like less than a minute. I'll let her speak.
R is in fact a protest of the establishment, and that has become a goal, like to protest the establishment by learning the history that created the negative views that my mother had about herself and that were cycled down to me, breaking generational curses and racist ideals one episode at a time. This is what I stand on. This is what I stand for. I'm all about this. Hey, I thank you guys so much for watching. I put out a 10-minute workout that I do with my friend and trainer, Claudia Cooper, every Saturday while the series is going on. We really just work out and have girl talk. It's so much fun. Please join us. Thank you for watching. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this history lesson. Let me know if there's anything else that you would like me to explore more of, and I will see you guys on the next upload. Thank you again. Bye.
And that's it. Yeah, I'll just say in closing, I just think, you know, people assuming that, we all struggle with that kind of mentality and that idea, that's never been an issue for me. That's never been an issue for my mother. Honestly, the idea of pushing thinner is better actually benefited both my mother and me. It's just how it is. Um, and I mean, I think any ideal that benefits you, you should prefer for yourself. I'm not saying that this lady here should, have to be 100 pounds. She probably can't get to 100 pounds. She probably can't get to 110 pounds. Um, that's fine with her. But to me, I think the more concerning issue is her health, really. If she wants to actually live a very healthy life and, take care of her body properly and not just get upset that she is having a hard time losing her weight, then to me, I think she should, try to focus